Well, shocked by what I heard in the report, clearly racist. And I think this is a test of leadership because...
Well, he's distanced himself.
Well,
he said they're reprehensible, hasn't he?
Well, he has, but you have to ask the question why so many people who are supporting reform seem to be...
I was shocked by what I read in the report. Keir Starmer has received an alarming signal from the results of the latest opinion poll. It turns out that his chair is under serious threat, and the source of this threat was none other than Nigel Farage. Yes, you heard right, this scandalous politician from the Reform Party is back in the game, and he's aiming right at Starmer. A new poll shows that support for the Populist Party has skyrocketed from 14.7% to 21%. After the general election on the 4th of July 2024, the popularity of the Reform Party in the UK skyrocketed. Support for this party has soared to 21%, and this is simply amazing, considering that initially it was supported by only 14.7% of voters. While the Conservative Party is going through a real crisis, its support has fallen to 20%, losing as much as 4%. The Labour Party, on the contrary, holds steady at 33% across the country, but even this cannot hide the growing excitement around the Reform Party. A We Think poll showed that support for the Conservatives dropped from 24.4% to a measly 20%, while Labour remained stable at 33%. This creates the feeling that the Reform Party is rapidly gaining strength and becoming a serious contender for British leadership. This dynamic promises an exciting future for British politics, and all eyes are now on the Reform Party.
After 3.5 years of deception and dishonesty, we will be leaving this prison of nations at the end of January. And we won't become a third country, as I've been hearing this morning. No, we're going to become an independent, self-governing nation. And you can delude yourselves this morning inside this cathedral that all is well, but it isn't. It isn't. People do not want to be run and governed by faceless bureaucrats like Michel and von der Leyen. Did you hear them earlier? Dull as ditch water.
Riding the wave of victory as he declared the UK's Independence Day. Nigel Farage hailed British voters as they chose to leave the European Union.
Politics, and I'm proud of everybody that had the courage, in the face of all the threats, everything they were told, they had the guts to stand up and do the right thing.
It was a real shock for Starmer, wasn't it? He clearly did not expect that Farage would overtake him so quickly in the political race. The excitement and anxiety overflowing in him suggests that the situation has become much more tense than he expected. The Labour Party's rating has collapsed by a shocking 38% in a new YouGov poll, and it has become a real bomb in the UK political landscape. The voters, disappointed and dissatisfied, began to lose faith in the party leader, and this seriously undermined Starmer's confidence.
Every single vote still has to be earned. We've got another 6 days to go, and it is very, very important to make the argument that if you want change, you have to vote for it. This is a big choice election because it's either 5 more years of what we've just had for 14 years, because nothing's going to change. That means the NHS won't get better. We'll still be in a sort of low-growth, high-tax doom loop. Or we can choose a different path and start to rebuild the country with Labour.
The loss of 38% of support is not just numbers, it is an alarming signal that cannot be ignored. At the same time, the Conservative Party has sunk to its historic low, creating an atmosphere of instability and uncertainty. And Nigel Farage's party, like a predator, is creeping up on the Tories, which indicates a sharp change in voter preferences. The sudden rise of reform advocates in the UK has also become apparent, highlighting the urgent need for changes in policy and governance approaches. The political arena is becoming increasingly tense, and no one can predict what will happen next.
So it's been an extraordinary few weeks for Reform UK. The party has rocketed up the polls since Nigel Farage announced 2 weeks ago that he was taking over as leader. Our latest polling suggests Reform can get 5 seats. That's 5 more than we were predicting at the start of the campaign, and they include places like Claxon in Essex, Boston and Skegness, another big Leave voting constituency, as well as Ashfield and 2 more. So why are voters here choosing this party? Well, Reform UK say they want to win over people from what they describe as left-behind communities. And if we look at the places where their message is cutting through, we can see that they do experience higher levels of deprivation than the rest of the country. This index here, it measures things like income, education, health and housing. And Clacton, where Nigel Farage is standing to be an MP, you can see it's the 45th most deprived constituency in the UK. And then on the opposite end, we've got places like Surrey Heath and mid-Buckinghamshire, usually Tory heartlands.
Reform UK is clearly full of ambition, especially with their decision to challenge elections in disadvantaged areas of the country. But they will have to face a harsh reality in order to gain the trust of voters. They need to offer something more than just empty promises, as Starmer does. Only real actions and sincere decisions can strengthen their positions in these difficult districts.
But how much does reform have to offer people living in places like Clacton? Well, let's take a look at their biggest policy on tax. This is what Nigel Farage had to say about it at the party's manifesto launch.
But I think the most innovative policy that we've put out in here is to raise the level at which people start paying tax to £20,000 a year. That would be a good thing, of course, for those on low pay.
It really seems complicated, doesn't it? However, Nigel Farage managed to get a parliamentary mandate from Clacton by focusing on the financial issues that concern this region.
Okay, so Reform UK want to raise the basic rate at which people start paying income tax to £20,000 a year, but they also want to increase the threshold at which people start paying the higher rate to £70,000 a year. And this would reverse the stealth tax that the current government has put in place by freezing those thresholds. But the way Reform UK have chosen to unfreeze the thresholds is overwhelmingly regressive. It's the highest earners who benefit the most.
If Starmer really knew how to win people's hearts, he wouldn't feel such overwhelming stress every time a new opponent appears on the scene. But now we see how he practically freezes when it comes to the meteoric rise of Farage and his Reform UK party. Farage's policy does not just bring him success, it blows up the usual framework, creating a wave of support that no other party could even imagine in recent years. This stunning success gives Farage incredible confidence, and he is not going to stop there. He is ready to challenge everyone, and this makes him an even more dangerous opponent. On the other hand, what has Starmer actually achieved since becoming Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? That's right, he just plunged into the abyss of unpopularity, becoming one of the most hated Prime Ministers in history. I was deeply disappointed by Keir Starmer's speech, as probably many others were. And this is not just my personal opinion, all national polls confirm his rating has collapsed by as much as 30 points since he came to power. This man is rapidly becoming one of the most unpopular leaders in a long time. In fact, at the time of the publication of this video, Keir Starmer's rating had fallen even lower. People just don't take him seriously. Starmer's popularity has dropped by 30 points, and this makes him dangerously close to becoming one of the UK's most forgotten leaders. All political parties are watching his failures with bated breath, while Farage and his Reform in Britain party are rapidly gaining popularity, and let's be honest, Farage doesn't make mistakes in his politics, unlike Starmer. He is still loved by the people, and his support is only growing. If this goes on, Starmer risks ending up at the very bottom, while Reform UK are rapidly overtaking Labour and all other parties in the country. This is a real political disaster. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.